So today we continue our conversation with the candidates, and joining us next is a candidate for Councilor-At-Large, Scott Campbell. Scott, good to see you. Thanks for coming over.
Nice to see you again, Joe. Thanks for having me.
There is an election coming up on November the 7th here in the city of Quincy. There are 3 at-large city councilors. There are 2 incumbents, and then there is you for an open seat.
Yes, it was a hard-fought battle here, but we're really excited to get this going. There was the opportunity presented itself. I think I'd been considering looking at school committee at one point, considering different spots. But if you had asked me a year ago, I probably would have said no way that I'd ever consider it. But this opportunity presented itself, and I think that it was good, the open process that went down. That everybody was eligible to take papers, and those that wanted to did, and as it turns out, maybe it was the work that we've done in advance that helped curb things in the right direction here, that we were able to come in and become a candidate right away. So.
And more than likely a counselor as well.
Yes.
After the election, for sure.
Yes.
There are no challengers, so it's kind of walking in. Were you surprised at that?
Very surprised,
Yeah.
in that this is a very active city, and I think that for people to become involved, I think it's very common to actually step out in front. I've been involved a lot over the years in politics and in the city, and volunteering in different boards, and I've never been out front. And being out front is a whole different ball game. And I don't want to view this as a walk-in, if that's the phrase that I understand is being said. But this is something that I want to make sure that I'm out there engaging with the voters, finding out what they're looking for, because I plan to hit the ground running the moment that we take office. So that's something that I take very seriously, and I'm out there knocking doors and hitting every possible event that I can, and trying to maintain the balance between home and campaigning and my own work and doing all that. It's a challenge, but it's something I'm really excited for.
Yeah. So let's take a little step back, and for folks who aren't familiar with you, tell us the Scott Campbell story.
Sure. I'm Scott Campbell. I'm the youngest of 8 kids. I grew up in southwest Quincy, over on Nightingale Ave, Center Street, right one street away from Sterling, the old Southwest, the new Southwest. Lincoln Hancock Elementary and Quincy High School. I spent some time, I graduated from UMass Boston, actually Quincy College and UMass Boston. I went on to be in telecommunications for a while, started with Network Plus right before it was Granite Communications. It started me on the path towards being in telecommunications for a while. And I decided that really wasn't for me. I needed to kind of be engaged and involved. And I started working on the campaign for Tim Cahill for treasurer. And when he took office, I started as his special assistant, and I was promoted to director of operations, and then chief of staff and deputy treasurer for Tim for those 8 years. And it was really a wonderful, wonderful time. After that, I started in on my own business. I started doing a lot of advertising and marketing work. We did some ballot questions that were successful, and those were very interesting days. I learned a lot from them, but thankfully I was able to move on, and I ended up working for Norfolk County Retirement System as one of the communications directors, and then where I am now, I've been for 6 years now, Falcon Associates and the Senior Resource Center over on Quincy Ave, an estate planning law firm. I'm involved in a lot of clubs, activities, in groups. I am the chairman. Actually, I'm just stepping down from the Quincy College Trust, where we raise money and help supplement some of the shortfalls for tuition for some deserving students. I'm on the commissioner for the Quincy Housing Authority, which also makes me part of the Community Preservation Commission.
Okay.
And all these things have just opened my eyes to Quincy and how really amazing it is. And I feel like this is the perfect time. The timing was right. The opportunity was there, and that was my chance to come in and jump in the race.
Do you have a legal degree?
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm the operations there as well, so,
Okay.
yeah.
And you mentioned ballot questions. Just curious, which ones did you work on?
It was the Right to Repair Act.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Yeah, and actually we did such a good job that they actually didn't go to the ballot itself. They ended up trying to work it out, the first one, because I think it went back on the ballot.
It did the second time.
Yeah, the second time.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
yeah, no, we did the commercials for that and the ads for that, so it worked out well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So how has all that background and experience, Scott, kind of affected what you'll bring to the city council?
Well, I think all of it is an opportunity to use it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we have networks that throughout the state, really. The Treasury oversaw the School Building Authority, oversaw the lottery, the Alcohol Control Commission, and retirement. And my favorite job of all of them was a special assistant. And the reason why I loved it so much was it opened my eyes to the constituency affairs. And I would get, in the state treasury, I would get, the light pole in front of my house needs to be replaced.
Really?
Yeah, it was amazing. And it would come from all over, it wasn't, from different specific areas. And I realized very early on that if people were calling, that we needed to answer and get answers. And I think that prepared me for this job.
Oh, okay.
And it's something I took very seriously, and I took great pleasure in really taking on. Like I said, if they're calling the state treasurer's office for a pothole in front of their house, it's probably because they have no other way to turn. And so this was an opportunity to help with big and small things, and I think that's really what the idea is behind serving the community, and that's something that I take very seriously. So I think that prepared me for what we're going to do here.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about I'm sure you had a discussion with your family before you decided to take out papers to run for office, or what did that consist of? Yeah.
Well, I think I said earlier that I had first started to consider school committee. There were rumors of people that weren't going to run for re-election, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and then I went back and forth a little bit. And then when this opportunity opened up, it just seemed like the right fit.
Okay.
My wife is a fifth grade. Actually, now she's a math interventionist for the city, doing a great job. I have to say hi to Olivia too. She told me to make sure I said hello. She was a seventh grader at Broadmeadows, and my oldest is a freshman at UMass Amherst. And all of them have been greatly supportive. And we opened up an ice cream shop down in Howes Neck way back in the day, and I remember talking to my wife and saying to her, how do you feel about it? And she said, oh, it sounds like a good idea. And I said, well, I think what we really need, you have to understand that if we undertake this can't be something that we take lightly. It's something that we really have to take and own. And if we're out in Worcester at a basketball tournament and someone doesn't show up for their shift, we have to come in, we have to, and I don't want you to say, I told you we shouldn't open up this thing.
Right.
And it really applies here too,
Yeah.
right? It is that without her buy-in, without her realization, I mean, she's affected thousands of lives over her time as a teacher, and I think that this is just another extension of that.
Sure. So what do you kind of see as the role of a counselor at large, Scott?
It's a good question. It's definitely something that I'm learning every day. One of the things that someone said was, you won't believe how big Quincy is until you start trying to walk it. And I've figured that's true.
Is that right?
Yeah, just the areas that you just didn't know existed. It's been a real whirlwind, but a good whirlwind, and I've enjoyed it. The people have been very receptive, and I think that there is a catch-all to especially at the at-large. That there'll be big things and little things that we'll have to address, talk about, and learn. And we're prepared for that, so I feel confident in it.
What are people telling you that they want out of their city council? What's on their minds?
I think that it's pretty standard. Probably the development and the direction that we're going. Traffic's always an issue. I think that they one thing that definitely has been is commercial space and balancing that. And I think my goal, I think, in the overall theme of our campaign, balance is the word that I think that I'll use, is that we have to balance everything. But there's a goal I think that we should have is that creating a community where generations of families can live in. And I think that that is something that some people are expressing that as much as they want their kids to own a house here, it's getting expensive and property values are going up. And on one hand, it's great, and on the other hand, so if we can somehow try to get in there and find ways to be creative, use the resources that we have to help families and parent, and the children to remain in this community, that should be the goal. Every decision we make should go in that thought process.
One thing that has been suggested, you're aware, is a residential tax, either a credit or an exemption or some type of way to ease the burden on taxpayers. Would you support that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that there's definitely a creativity. I think will have to be the key. And I think that the families that have stayed here, I think that there should be a reward in a certain way in how we do that, and not have one section, whether it be the commercial or the developers or unfairly burdened with some of it. I mean, sometimes it does have to shift, and if that's the case, then that's the case. But overall, I think that I think if we can find a balance and an opportunity to use the resources that we have here, I think that would be everything that I would strive for.
Okay. How would you kind of overall, I guess, rate the way the city's budgetary process is conducted right now?
Well, the budgetary process right now for the city, I think, is something that I will learn a lot about over the next several weeks and months. I've already learned a lot. I think that there is a process to everything, and I think that the city has prospered. I think that we have passed the point of a turning point, and I think Quincy is now at its tipping point. And I think that we probably have reached a point where as the development continues and as things work out, we need to make sure that we can sustain it. We can, it's great to put, items out there, but if we don't have the bandwidth to sustain it over time, the budget to sustain it over time, I think that's something that we have to be extra mindful of, and that's something that I'll be paying great mind to as it goes forward.
One thing you'll probably be faced with on the City Council is the proposed 99-year lease of Granite Links to Quarry Hills Associates. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think I grew up as about a mile from the place where my dad would take me on Saturdays to find other people's trash. It was our treasures, I guess. So I remember it as a dump back in the day, and I think that the job and the work that they've done over there has been amazing. Is there work to be done? I think so, and I think that the best way to, accomplish anything would be to have a discussion on it, have communication. Let's figure out where, what is reasonable and what makes the most sense, because the work that's been done over there, the work's been done over the years over there. I think it is remarkable. It's the crown jewel, I think, of the South Shore, as far as I'm concerned. Golf-wise, restaurants, just the area itself. Are there improvements to be made? Sure. And I think that's something that we can address and deal with, and then find it in an agreeable spot where everybody can win.
Okay. So, but as proposed right now, though, you think it still needs some tweaking? Or?
I think 99's a lot.
Okay.
And without knowing, but there's financing that's involved. There's plans that are involved, and does that include something that goes with it? So until I really get in there and tear it apart, I think that's something that I'll off the top, yes, it sounds like 99 is probably high, but
okay. All right. One area that relates to your former expertise is city or municipal broadband network that's been discussed for several years now.
Yep.
Is that something that you feel is a good way to go for the city?
I think that that's probably the direction we're heading in the entire country. I think
really?
That's my gut says that we should try to be ahead of all of the items that are on here. I think that I know that there was an independent study that's been done. I think that's something that should be explored. And I think that in this day and age, for there to be Wi-Fi unavailable seems unusual. So I think that we should definitely take a shot at taking care of it. Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to let folks know about yourself right now or your campaign, Scott?
Well, I would say that I'm very excited for this opportunity. I have lived here my whole life, and I see the direction that we're heading, and I really like it. And I would say that the decisions that we make today, I think they do have an effect on the long term. I have, like I said, 2 daughters who I hope graduate college and come back here or go do wherever they want, and they raise their families here, and we're able to experience that and be with them forever. My goal right now for my next few months is to learn as much as possible, to try to become as close to an expert on one subject, whether it's the finance or the budget or the ordinances, all those things that go with being on the council, and try to give myself this advantage to providing some type of leadership on it. And I think this is the best city in the world, and I love it. And I want to prove that to the people that I don't know, and the people that I do know, I want to make sure I don't let them down. And that would be my message, is that I believe in this city, and I believe that we're heading in the right direction, and I hope to be a part of it for years to come.
Talk a little bit about like outreach to your constituents. How would that happen? How would you stay in touch with them?
Every possible way that I think is effective. I think people lean on social media a lot. I think that social media is scary in a lot of ways, especially as a father of 2 children that are teenage. And I think that sometimes it can create issues where there are none at certain times. Misinformation gets shared over it, and I think that so having office hours, having the opportunity to sit down with people and to create a discussion, as opposed to hoping that the right message gets through over social media or over email, or if it's interpreted correctly. You can't you can't sense tone in the written word online, and that's something that we have to constantly be mindful of, because a missed comma or a missed period, it can cause a great deal of harm. So I think that communicating is the best and only way to do it, and finding the best means to do that is important.
Does your campaign have an online presence?
We do, yeah. Scott for Quincy. We have basic items up there: sign up, volunteer. We have issues that we are ironing out right now to just put up there, but you're encouraged to reach out to direct message us on our Facebook page, Instagram, or on our website. We'll be glad to get back in touch with you. In fact, I'm meeting with constituents tonight to go over some of the issues that we're talking about.
Can we talk a little bit about the changing demographics, Scott, of the city over the past 20 plus years or so, and how you think the city addresses that, and do you see any needs for improvement in that area?
Yeah, I think that the city has definitely changed. The demographics has changed, and I think that there's a transient piece to it. I think that the core of the residents in the city seems to have maintained, and I think that there is a struggle of sorts from people who are moving in and people who have lived here, and I think there's a common ground that we can reach. And I think that as we begin to progress in the city, that we are open to discussions and making sure that we make services available, making sure that we have options available for low-income housing and for those who really want to invest in the community. I think that's important.
Can the city do a better job with public transportation and working with the MBTA to improve service?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's something I feel like we have the number of MBTA stops that we have on the red line is something that I think is, I don't want to say underappreciated, by how important that is and how incredible that is, and I think that we're at the mercy a lot of times of the state agencies and the state groups. So I think that if we have this a voice of the amount of people that we have, over 100,000 people in the city, I think that we should have a greater voice in making sure that we're at the table. And I think that with the mayor's office on the advisory board, hopefully that's something that will help improve that, and I think we'll see it.
Sure. All right. Anything else we'd like to let folks know about?
No, I really appreciate you having me in here. If I humbly ask for your vote on November 7th, I am excited to be part of the Quincy City Council as your at-large candidate, and I humbly ask for one of your votes.
Thanks for stopping by, Scott. Good to
Thanks,
talk to
Joe.
you. You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching us here at AM Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. We'll see you next time.